Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Founder. I'm your podcast host, Luke Beastall, and I have a fellow Brit joining us today in the studio. Sol is actually, are you in the UK at the moment, Sol? Are you in South Africa still?
I'm actually in Malta, as you do.
As you do.
Sorry.
It's like I'm in Malta, I'm in South Africa. This guy's just all over the world, right? Which we're gonna talk a little bit about how this has all come about. But ultimately, his mission is to help people live a better life through entrepreneurship, which I think is great. And he's got a brand and a community called the Free Thinkers Club, which we'll delve deeper into today. And I think I was just talking a bit beforehand, guys, and I think this is really important to share that, probably what you may see online, we're very quick to judge. And I think this is a great space for Sol to, and he said he's eager to share more of a vulnerable side and ultimately what it's all about. So Sol, listen, welcome to the studio today. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Luke, thank you so much. You make it sound like I'm this like controversial character. I love it. I'm like,
sorry.
I've got to set my name straight now. No, I'm very happy to be on it. I think it's a great thing that you're doing because anyone listening gets to see inside. As you say, like on marketing, you want to show the money, you want to show the life you live. You want to show that, I'm in Malta, I'm South Africa, but we both know that journey isn't so easy. So I'm really looking forward to showing your listeners what life is really behind a successful business and what it's actually like to grow something like that. So no, super excited. Thanks for having me on, my friend.
No, absolutely. And I think obviously it's just, we are too quick to judge. We live in a world where we sort of put an impression on someone. And I think obviously for you, which we'll go into your story, your life wouldn't have always obviously been that way. It's not been handed to you. You've had the adversity and the challenges. And I think it's also about you as a person. Like, what have you had to learn about yourself? What have you had to create to become this, fast growing leading entrepreneur, because you're a leader. Naturally, you're born to do that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and like it's very kind of you to say, and for sure, like I'm very fortunate with great family and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it's been tough, and I want this to be an episode for anyone who's listening for them to hopefully feel inspired that you could be in an awful place with your mental health, you can be in an awful place with your in a tough place with where your job's at and pointing in the wrong direction, and everything can change because I can't quite believe what's happened to me in 18 months. And I want everyone listening to this to be able to feel they can do the same thing as well.
Okay, this is cool. So where was you 18 months ago?
I was lying on my parents' floor thinking, with about 300 pounds to my name, thinking I've absolutely screwed up my life and I don't know what I'm going to do and I'm a failure and I am pretty much destined for a life of underachieving my potential.
Okay. And where did you go from there? Like, what was the first step?
Yeah, it's great. So I'll give your listeners a bit of context because I went for the big thing. But so I effectively I was lying on my parents' floor, but that's because I'd moved back to my parents' house, which I'm obviously very fortunate to be able to do. But 3 months before that, I was working a corporate job, which was my dream job. And I'm sure people listening can relate to that like feeling of you're like, you build this thing up in your head and it's the best thing in the entire world. And that for me was being a corporate consultant. Funny enough, I was like, I can't wait to be in this prestigious consulting firm where I get to work with all these amazing companies. And when I started that job, I was firstly very fortunate to have spent some time in Bali, and I was around people who are what I call, they were happy, healthy, rich, and free. And I call that like the 4 things I really want to have in life. They were playing paddle at 3 p.m. in the afternoon on a Tuesday. And I was like, how do you do that? Like, have you got a job to be doing? And they were taking their family on trips. They were really living fulfilling lives. And that was one thing. And then I went to the job and I just thought, like, I am surrounding myself with people who are nice, but people who are living a completely different life to the life that I want to live. They're optimizing for holidays. They're trying to spend more and more time away from work. They're looking forward to the weekend. So I did 8 months of what I thought was my dream job, but every single second I was working out how to leave. And in October 2024, November 2024, I decided that was not what I wanted to do. And I just quit with no backup plan. No one thought that it was a good idea. Everyone told me I was absolutely crazy. I moved out of a house with my friends, gave up that, moved back to my parents' house. And that moment I described when I was lying on the floor was a moment where I was sat there going, I've messed up here. I shouldn't have quit. I don't know what I'm doing. and I'm lost and I'm stuck and I'm running out of money. And my dad is constantly telling me that I need to do something better with my life. And I'm having all this pressure. And I just I took a video of it. I was lying on the floor. It was actually like a day after my birthday. And I was like, I've messed up here. So that's the context for anyone listening. That's where I was at. But you asked me, the real question you asked me was, what was I doing? And I think this is the interesting part, Luke, which is to get out of that, I tried everything that I could. And I'm sure you've had loads of people on the podcast who talk about this, but for anyone listening, the greatest way to find out what works, whether you've got a successful business or whether you've got a business you're trying to get off the ground, is just trying as many things as possible, running tests and experiments. I ran a happiness community where I got for 8 weeks, I got people in it who are I was like, here, we're going to do help with your mental health. And that was really great. I didn't want to pursue it as like a full-time thing, but it was so fun. I tried out brand deals. I tried out sales. I tried all these things. And that is to answer your question very directly, that's the context. But what I tried was as many things as I could to work out what really sparked. And I'm sure for you, Luke, that's sitting on a podcast, and obviously doing all the other things you do. And for me, that to start with was content. This idea of telling people what I think, telling great stories, putting out value into the world, and connecting with people everywhere on social media. And that was what I was trying was the thing that really stuck.
Yeah. By the way, I love that, and I'm glad you shared the context of both sides, just so our audience can understand a little bit more. And sort of what I've captured from this is that obviously you had this in you, this fire, you have this drive, and I guess you knew something weren't quite right in where you was, and there's only you that knows that. And I think just for the guys listening in as well, is that if you've got something inside you with something that sit right, feel right, don't ignore it. Obviously you had gone against the grain. You practically said, I'm quitting, and everybody was like, no, don't do it. You've got this flash lifestyle. You're going to have this life that's going to give you so much, but you knew something weren't quite right. And I think just how you said there, you tried everything. Why, just in your own sort of, because you work obviously now with a lot of business owners, what do you think stops people from trying everything? Because a lot of people sort of try one thing and then stop and then think they've failed. How did you push past that?
Great question. 2 things. The first is knowing that people fail and that's what's meant to happen. I think a lot of people try things, they fail, and then they're like, that's it. I've tried to launch Apple and it's failed. And it's looking and normalizing failure. So it's incredible when you speak to people who are successful. You see people who are they're incredible businesses now, and you actually hear their story about how many times they've failed and how many things have gone on. And I think a lot of people think that the first time they fail, that means they're not made for entrepreneurship. They're not made for this life. And it's actually normalizing. So the first thing I did is when I failed the first and the second and the third time, I went, okay, this is good. This is actually, I'm now stacking up the failure points to know that my 5th thing or 6th thing, whatever it was, is going to succeed. So it's knowing that first attempt is not right. So that's the first thing I would say. It's just normalizing that you actually have to fail 4 or 5 times to get the 5th or 6th success. And if you don't do that, then I'd actually be quite worried. You shouldn't succeed on your first go. The second thing is Luke, is a fear of failure. A lot of people are just terrified about what other people think. My favorite video I ever filmed in my life, which I got ripped for, was I was in London and I thought this cool series called it's not a new series, but it's rejection therapy. And I was like, I'm going to go and stand a kilometer away from my house and just film myself getting into people or asking people if I could have a lift to my house. And that was because I was like, this is going to be a great video. And it's also really good because it's going to cure me of my fear of rejection. And I learned in that moment how terrifying it is to A, have the knowledge that my friends are going to watch this, but B, go up to a random person and ask them for just a lift down the road. And in that moment, I cured my fear of failure. But so many people are so worried about what other people think. And that stops people trying things, because as soon as something fails, as soon as someone goes up and asks someone if they can have something and they say no, then what happens is that person immediately shuts down and thinks about all of the things that are going to cascade because of that fear of failure. And I normalized that fear, and I knew that it was absolutely normal to feel bad. I made videos that were embarrassing. I made videos of that I got ripped of. But I know on the other side of that fear and embarrassment is things that people aren't willing to do. And that's why I'm very fortunate now to live a 0.1% lifestyle. But that's because I'm willing to break that barrier of fear and embarrassment to go places that most people aren't willing to go. So I think it comes down to people don't do things because they're scared of what other people think.
I totally agree. And I think just how you've spoken there about that lift sort of experience, that's very crazy. Like ballsy as well. Fair play.
Yeah, it was not fun, mate. It was not fun.
No, but the fact that you've done it, I mean, where did you find this? I mean, within you, Sol, to do it? Because you've got to imagine, I mean, I'm trying to paint this picture here, and the guys listening as well, try and paint you doing that, or at least curing your fear of failure. It's still, we have that, like, maybe we might go 2 steps forward or 1 step forward and 3 steps back, and then we never sort of get out of that rut of, oh, I can't do it. I'm not good enough to do this. You've got through that in a short space of time as well, right?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So for me, the fear of not becoming the person I want to be and not living the life that I want to live is so much worse than the fear and the cost of embarrassment. So for me,
that's good.
If someone is listening and they're thinking and they're scared about what is going to happen if they fail, they need to think about what the life they want to live is. Because I realize I want to be living wherever I want in the world. I want to be making money from posting content. I want to be not thinking about restaurant bills. I want to be taking my parents on holiday. I want to be like living the best life possible. I wasn't living that at the time when I got into, or asked people, it sounds like I'm getting into random people's cars, but I asked to get into random people's cars. I wasn't living that life. So when someone ripped me for doing that, the pain of that was like a 2 out of 10, because the pain of having to turn up to a boss, to not having the financial means that I wanted to being in London where I didn't want to be, was a 10 out of 10. And that's because that's what I realized was possible. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, how do I get to a point where I do those things? It's because the difference in where you want to be to where you are now is not painful enough to you. And therefore, the only cure to that is to set your expectations of the life you deserve, the life that you live, to be as high as possible. And then when your friend just tells you that was embarrassing, you go, yeah, it was embarrassing, but my God, in 6 months' time, I'm going to be living a life that you can't even imagine. And I promise you, having experienced that now with my friends, the exact ones that ripped the one, let me tell you that this is a very good story. One of my friends came to me skiing the other day. We were skiing like 4 months ago. And he said to me, so I've actually got to apologize to you because I made a whole folder of videos of you making the most embarrassing videos you possibly, like, I put every single video in that folder. And I made sure that I was going to embarrass you when you realized this content was the most embarrassing thing in the world. And he went, I'm so sorry, because I was flying. I think I'd done a week of skiing before. I was flying to Cape Town business class after that. And that's all to say, like, I'd achieved the thing that I wanted to achieve. And he went, you were right. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I doubted you. And that was because I stood firm on knowing that him ripping the shit out of me was not going to come close to the life that I live in. And that moment was very funny because that's the moment that I imagined the year before when he was ripping the shit out of me.
I mean, that again, thank you for sharing that, because the reframe on what you've just shared is so powerful. The sort of clear part of where the pain of not becoming the person that you want to become in your life against or the pain of embarrassment. I think that's a sort of good thing for our listeners to sort of sit with, because so many of us, and I'm sure you've experienced it, I've experienced it, and everybody has, this is relatable, where you don't want to get up in the morning and go into the place that you want to. You don't want to face some of the people that you know you're going to have to talk to in the day, and you feel a bit trapped, and maybe there is more, you're destined of more, but you sort of feel like, I've got stuff to pay for, such as bills, but you know that something is inside of you to sort of explore, and we still don't do it because of, like you say, fear of failure and what other people think.
Absolutely.
So tell me, this is great so far. Tell me a little bit about, when did things start to shift? Okay, so you was at this rock bottom, you was sort of staring at the ceiling, you took that video. When did you start to see that this failure was turning more into a bit more of success? You were seeing a bit of reward for that hard work.
So, great question. So I was all lying on the floor and I realized that you can't, one of the biggest hacks of building cool things is to surround yourself with people building cool things. Your environment is so important. I'm sure your listeners have heard that a million times, but it's true. And we both know it's true. And I realized that sitting in my parents' house, as fortunate as I was to be able to go back and live with them, was not where I was going to build the life that I wanted to build that I just spoke about earlier. Where I was going to do that was being surrounded by incredible people. And I was very fortunate to have a friend who lived in Dubai, who I'd networked with when I was in Bali the year before. He was an incredibly successful entrepreneur, but he saw that like desire of me to do things. And he said, look, come to Dubai, live in my, like he had a spare place or a friend's place who didn't have space, and just come there. So I spent my last money, literally the last money that I had, dipped into savings, but like I really was running out of money at that point with no idea where I was going to make it from. And I went and I stayed in his place in Dubai, and I locked myself in that room for 24 hours. And I was doing sales call after sales call after sales call, because I had to get a side sales call job to try and somehow get some income to be able to kind of like eat properly. And at that point, I was posting videos, and I got the first person message me going, so I'd love if you could actually teach me about how you make these videos, because they're really good. So I'd been posting videos for a long time, but that was the first person who messaged me being like, I would love to learn from you. And I said, look, like, don't pay me anything. Let's just help. Like, and I just helped so many people. I went on, put an Instagram story up, and I was like, anyone looking for help with content creation, let me just help you. And I jumped on call after call after call after call, being like, change your hook this way, make this video about this person. And everyone started getting so many results that I then could share on my story the results. I was like, this person got a free consultation with me, and they've just, like, one guy hit 1 million view video, having never been able to crack 2,000 views. The results were incredible. And I was getting so much confidence that I knew what I was doing. And then someone said to me, I want to work with you for 3 months. And then I jumped on a call with him. I had no idea like what I was selling, or like, he just went, I just want your WhatsApp number to message you. And he paid me £400 for 3 months. And that was the first bit of money that I got. And to me, that was like, oh my God, like someone has just paid me money. I'm like, I'm my own business now. And that is where it all took off. But it's all because I moved to be around the right people, and I sat in a room and I did nothing but work on my skills and grind. And then thirdly, I gave without expecting anything in return. And that in itself turned into things in return in the future. And that's when I was like, oh my God. And there's a video of me running around this Dubai apartment, just basically like screaming with excitement. It's like as a 20, I think I was 23 at that point, a 23-year-old man running around screaming with excitement is a funny look, but it's a great video to look back on, because yeah, that £400 changed my life.
That's so good. And also the fact that you took a chance, a risk on going out to Dubai and having that connection of obviously being out in Bali. And I think it's just, yeah, you're right. The environment, your network and everything is so key. But I want to sort of ask you, what did you learn most about yourself going through these early stages of doing the free stuff, you know, and putting yourself out there, not knowing that there's not like an expected return for your time invested. It was just very much seeing what happens.
I learned the difference between success and living the life you want to live is execution. Because a lot of people have good ideas. There's $1 million startups that are in people's minds every single day, every day. There's people in this audience who are listening right now who have what could be the next Apple in their brain, but they don't do it because they don't execute. And that is the difference. So I realized that about myself, which is that it isn't about having good ideas. It's not about being inspirational. It's not about getting dopamine by telling your friends what you're going to do. It's about going and doing the work. And locking myself in that room for a month showed to me what I can achieve as a person if I just work so incredibly hard. And I grinded so hard to the point where like I was back to back with sales calls, then creating content. I was doing nothing but work. And it taught me that like what I can achieve when I put my mind to things. And once you have that feedback loop of like work hard, result, without that like immediate gratification, work hard, wait a bit, result, work hard, wait a bit, result, very much like, you know, getting in shape in the gym. It's that addictive feeling of knowing that like, hey, this isn't working out, but I know that it's going to work out at some point. And that was a lesson that I've brought into my personal life, into my fitness, into everything, is that all good things come to people that do the thing and don't expect the thing, but do the thing anyway.
I think that's good there. Do the thing and don't expect, but do the thing anyway. because we do live in a world full of expectations, such as if I'm going to do that, what's in it for me? Or you want an instant return because otherwise I'm just wasting my time. What's the point? But I think just what I'm sort of feeling from this already is, you've done the reps, you've put the reps in, you've tried different things. What's something that you've tried that you firmly believed in that was going to work, but totally flopped, didn't work the way you wanted it to? And what did you do from there?
Yeah, great question. It's a bit more, we're moving my story on a little bit, but it's very, very applicable, which is I wanted to film these vlog series. And I was like, okay, great. I'm going to fly a videographer who's a great guy out to me in Bali, and I'm going to pay him, put a lot of money into editing, put a lot of money into getting all these videos. And I must have spent 5 figures plus on it to get it. And I was like, this is going to work. And it didn't work. It didn't work. And I spent so long trying to make it work and so much time, and it just didn't work. The vlogs, we focused on the wrong things. We made the mistake of focusing on the video and not on getting people to click on the video, all of those sort of things. But it taught me a really good lesson, which is that, and actually the funniest thing about that, Luke, is that now, 6 months later, that vlog footage, one of the videos that we repackaged into a short form video, blew up and has made me 6 figures in business. So isn't that funny, right? So what I started off saying is one of my biggest failures and cost me so much money is the exact same lesson that we just said to everyone a few minutes ago, which is I did the thing, it failed, and a lot of things fail, but there is always a lesson to be learned. Whether you do the wrong thing, where you invest in the wrong person, where you spend more time on the wrong thing, is the lesson it taught me is make sure you think about people's clicking and people's attention before you spend time on the vlog. And second, it taught me that actually, again, do the thing and don't expect things to come from it, and things will come in the future. And now one of my best performing videos is one of the videos that guy filmed, and it came from that. Immediately, I could have just pressed delete on all the footage, go waste of time. And I was like, no, how can I use this to be an opportunity? And it then has turned out to be a 10x opportunity in terms of return on investment. And yeah, so big failure, but also another great lesson to be learned.
But what a mindset shift, though. The fact that you've repurposed or repackaged, bite-sized chunk of your content, put it into something, and it's actually turned into a massive success. I mean, that takes a lot mentally to do that, because you'd already invested a lot of money into something, and it inevitably failed and didn't go the way you wanted to. Like, who have you had to become to push past that? Because so many people would have just parked it and moved on.
I think it's just knowing that, like, it's extending that time between success and the input, and knowing that you've got to try 99 things that don't work to find the one thing that works. And the cost of me not succeeding was a learning about what will succeed, and me learning and getting better. So your question was like, who have I had to become? Well, I've had to become someone that accepts that a lot of things are going to go wrong in my life, but the things that go right are going to go right exceptionally well. You look at Warren Buffett's strategy, very similar, investing strategy. Like, it's all about 1 or 2 things have outsized returns, 80-20 rule, Pareto principle, that 1 or 2 things work incredibly well, and the rest are going to make up a very small chunk of your success. But there's 1 or 2 actions that have changed my life, but there is so many things under that are failures and that don't work. But I don't get to those successful things without those failures. So it's just normalizing failure again. It's just being like, all right, that didn't work. How can we make that as much of a win as possible? And then there you go, a 6-figure video all the way from a failure.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, obviously you've got thick skin, Sol, for all this failure. I mean, you must have
It's because I got ginger hair, mate. So I got bullied. I got bullied about that growing up. I got told enough about that.
It's so good, though. It's just so good to sort of hear, the way that you sort of answer, every single one of these questions. Yes, I mean, obviously the theme of this podcast episode so far has been like leaning into the failure, learning from the failure. There's always a lesson to be learned. And even if it's a failure for 6 months, a year, 2 years, you can still actually turn it into a big success with a big return.
I asked myself, what would it look like if it worked? What would it look like if it was successful? What would that thing look like? And then I was like, yeah, actually, that's probably like, I've got this footage. what would it look like if it was successful? And that reframe is such a powerful reframe. What would it look like if it worked? I ask myself that all the time whenever I fail. What would I do right now if I knew this was going to work? And that like makes me feel so confident about doing things, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make this as useful as possible. And 9 times out of 10, it then turns into being a win.
Yeah, so this is strong, and this leads me on to the next question. What do you stand by in life, Solve, to keep going, to keep pushing?
So it was 2 things. The first was I was very selfish when I was first getting this off the ground, to keep people listening on the story. Is like all I wanted to do when I made that first £400, when I started making more money. So I was like, I just want to be able to pay my bills, to be able to help my family, to be able to eat nice food. That's all I care about. The second thing, and what I tell everyone now, I wish I had thought about earlier, was what like impact do I want to have? It's very hard to think about that when you can't pay your bills. And it sounds cliche as hell to say, oh, I want to talk about impact and all that sort of thing. But when you live life working about, like, when you live life thinking about how can you impact other people, you don't have to worry about your bank balance, because your bank balance will sort itself out. But what will happen is people will pay you very well for the impacts that you have. And that's something that I always tell myself is like the thing that I live by is how can I live through my mission as much as possible. My mission to help 10,000 entrepreneurs change their lives. And that is because I know that what my life has changed by understanding entrepreneurship. And I want to do that for 10,000 other people. And that is the thing that I live by, Luke, is to think, what does my life look like every day when I live through that mission? And that mission is the thing that I live by. And that makes me wake up every morning with a massive smile on my face.
And what is the mission?
The mission is the 10,000 entrepreneurs. That's exactly it. And it's the mission is feeling every single day. Like I've just come off before I jumped on this podcast, I've just spent time with one of my clients who joined us. She was living in Bali. She's a women's coach, and she was making $3,000 a month, but really struggling like to work out what she wanted to do with her life. Last month, she made $95,000. And that is like the most fulfilling thing in the world for me. That is the thing that gets me up every day, is to have her send me a 3-minute voice note last night about how I've changed her life. And that I would impart on everyone, no matter what industry, no matter what business you have, no matter what job you do, is how can you have as much impact on the people around you as possible? And that is the mission for me, is impact. And I know that I'll never have to worry about money again if I have that as my singular mission.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's great. Where did you find 10,000 from? Why 10,000?
Think big. Like we've worked with 140 people at this point. So it feels like a really good goal to think about how we can do that. But like, I always thinking in 10x thinking and thinking like, oh, how can we get to that? So we're actually right now putting on a bit of a plug, but we're putting on an event for people in the UK about building and scaling freedom businesses. And we want to have 500 people at that event. And that's the thing, is like, if I hadn't said that word 10,000, Luke, then I would have gone to that event and think, how can we get 50 people to that event? But my God, like if I can't have events that have 50 people in, otherwise it's going to take me a long time to get to 10,000. So I need to think bigger. And that makes me think bigger. It's now thinking, okay, well, what does that event look like with 500 people in it? And then I want to fill a stadium, and I want to fill an arena, and then I want to do that. And that's why thinking big helps. So 10,000 comes from just thinking, what feels uncomfortable? How can I double and triple and 10x that number? That's what we should be going for.
Yeah, I love that, the 10x thinking. And I think a lot of people, you talk about freedom, you talk about impact, you talk about mission. These are sort of flown around words. We hear it a lot, but I think obviously just hearing you share the mission, and obviously just an example of somebody you've helped. I mean, look, it comes across genuine. It's great to sort of hear that, you are like, listen, you're making a true impact on, people's lives. I'd love to just know from your side a bit more deeper on this question. What does impact mean to you?
For me, impact starts with how I see one person, and then that expands. For me, like, impact is how can you move someone's life in a direction that they want? How can you take someone from where they aren't to where they want to be? Very simple, like transition from A to B. Because I think in general, like for me, it's like, how do I get someone? It's normally about their mindset. It's what can they achieve in their life? Like, I'm sure you, Luke, and someone listening have been in a place where they don't want to be. And I want to play a little role in getting someone to turn around and make their life better, just have a little bit of a better experience. And I think about this, which I say to all of because a lot of people in my community are coaches, so they're also within that kind of transformational role. And I say the greatest thing you can get is the change my life text message. And that is the kind of nickname we have for it, which is someone of your clients or someone you work with saying, what you have achieved for me has materially changed my life. And that is to feel that you and the things you've taught or the things you've done for someone or the information you've passed on has made such a material impact that someone cannot recognize the old version of themselves. Because at the end of the day, that's all we're trying to do, right? Become better versions of ourselves and live a better and happier, more fulfilling and more peaceful life. If you have an impact on that, whether that's making someone more money, whether getting their relationships better, whether getting their health better, that is what really, like, at the end of the day is going to make me feel like I've lived a cool life.
Yeah, I love that sort of thing that you fly around within your community about change my life text message. Obviously, I feel that as somebody who coaches as well. I absolutely can't beat it. It's like, hey, stand up and stuff like that. You know, for you, obviously, as an entrepreneur now, what's the sort of ambition moving forwards from where you are now? Because obviously things are going well. What's the next step? Yeah,
it's such a good question. My brain sometimes is thinking way too much as to like where my reality is, which is a great thing. I think it's exactly what you have to do, right? But right now, I'm in my life very focused on making this consulting education business as big as possible to help as many people as possible to grow their businesses. That's where my brain is. Or that's where my reality is. Where my brain is thinking massively, I want to build a business that there's two missions that I kind of want. The first is to expand that mission beyond belief. So that turns into building a VC and a private equity firm where we distribute capital to help entrepreneurs, because I can only help so much with my information, my knowledge. What I want to be able to help more is actually putting my money where my mouth is and saying, I bet on you to be incredible. Let me give you some money to scale. That involves me having to build a massive media team on the front end to build my reach and to get as many people to see me as possible. That's the first thing. But the second thing, which has really come into play with me recently, Luke, is to think about what are my other like real beliefs in life. And one of the things that I feel really, I don't know, like I feel passionately about is that I had to leave the UK to grow my business. Like I had to. Like for me, the environment in the UK was so negative towards entrepreneurship. The tax is weighed up against us, is stacked up against us. The amount of like impact I've managed to have because of moving to Dubai and setting up my business there has been incredible, because of the money, not to go and spend it on stupid designer handbags, but to be able to go and get team members that can help me like achieve the things that I want to achieve. So one of my missions, Luke, is to go back to the UK and to be able to give people the thing that I didn't have, which is the support and the legroom up. So I want to create a fund or some sort of like venture group, which is going to help people so they don't have to feel like they need to get on a plane to Dubai to grow their business. Because right now the government is doing nothing to help people like us grow great businesses and promote entrepreneurship in the UK. And I want to be the person that plugs that gap and works out how I can help people get themselves off the ground, and they don't feel like the only way to grow their business is to jump out on the next Emirates flight to Dubai.
Yeah, I think this is great. I love that. And I'm so like, yes, relating to it, because it is hard in the UK. We know it's hard. It's hard everywhere. It'd be hard where you are. But I guess, yes, we are taxed heavily. You know, everybody, yes, wants to catch the flight to Dubai to start a business, or at least that's what they see online with all the glam and the flashy lifestyles and stuff like that. Obviously, you're doing a bit, not like in a way, full circle sort of moment. Obviously, you're born in the UK, but you're sort of wanting to build up this network, this community, to then so you can do the big thing. And the big thing is being able to give back to these aspiring entrepreneurs. I'd love to know from more of a personal side, because the business, what have you had to change about yourself? So what habits have you had to create to make this happen?
Two things. Firstly, emotional resilience. Like, as I explained throughout most of these stories that I tell you, is that something goes wrong and you have to accept it going wrong and get on with it. And a lot of people, and me in the past, was unable to really like deal with that. Something would go wrong in my life, my personal life, and in business, and I would just lose my mind about it, whether it be like someone didn't buy because they should have bought, or like a video goes badly, or anything like that. So the biggest thing that I've had to learn is that is emotional resilience, and just knowing that I am in control of my own emotions and I can react in the way that I want to react. So I regulate myself very, very strongly. Breath work, gratitude, meditation. Like I'm really, really big on that self-development stuff, because simply there are fires burning everywhere in my personal and my business life, and I just have to get on with it. And that's life, right? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is unbelievable focus, like absolute dialed in focus on the things that I want to achieve. And that is as small as like, I don't very regularly cook. I'm also very bad at cooking, but I don't very regularly cook. It's, you know, going and get my washing done by someone else, and all these sort of small things that seem ridiculous, but it's about being focused on the goal and having a complete blinker on that. And one of the things that in my personal life I've got very good at is just saying no and being very clear on the things I want to, being a bit less of a people pleaser, and knowing that I want to achieve this thing, and me going and getting drunk on the weekend with my friends is going to stop me from achieving that thing. Whether that's a bad thing every now and then, I don't agree. I think it's sometimes fun to do, but that pure focus in my personal and my business life has been a game changer. And now I achieve the things that I want to achieve so much quicker, because when I put my mind to something, I know exactly what I want to do, and I'm able to do it because of that focus.
Yeah, obviously you'd spoken about this quite early on as well, about this focus and, you know, giving that whole attention to it, which I think is really good. And obviously there's no denial in the success you've already created through ingraining that focus. And obviously, like in a way, that self-improvement, obviously slowing down. And I mean, just, I know it's very different in your life, but probably a lot of people will see this entrepreneur lifestyle personally and professionally as hustle mode. Like you said, you're working all the time. What, just give us a bit of an example of what your day actually looks like now to what it was back probably when you first started, just so people can sort of see where it can possibly go.
Yeah, I mean, this is me purely selling the dream, but it is like, I'm very grateful for it, which is, I mean, let me tell you what happened 3 days ago, which is that one of my friends was very kindly said he had a place in Malta, and I was in Cape Town, and I was like, looks like it's going to rain for the next 2 days. So I'm just going to book a flight and just, you know, book a flight halfway across the world to go and join him in Malta and enjoy some incredible Maltese food and incredible Maltese coastline, because it was raining. And that was like a small example of being able to just travel across the world, being in lounges, flying nicely. And that's because of the hard work that I did. And now it looks like the smallest thing, like I could give my whole day and it would sound great. Like, you know, I've just had a really nice food at a really nice restaurant. I didn't have to look at the bill. I can sell that dream. The biggest thing that I can say, Luke, that I am so grateful for is I don't have to set an alarm in the morning. That is in an encapsulation of what I'm so grateful for, is not having to set an alarm. And I know that seems so small to me. And some people say, like, it's so ridiculous how obsessed you are. But like that feeling when I woke up in London with my corporate job and I woke up to an alarm epitomized everything about what I disliked about my life. It was working on someone else's terms, not living the life that I wanted to live, like stress and anxiety and everything like among that. And this morning I woke up when I wanted to wake up. Me and my friend went for a really fun gym session. We went and got a morning coffee. I then went, I've got nothing else to do, so I'm going to have another coffee. We spoke about the things we wanted to achieve in life. We sat in the sun in a lovely coffee shop in Malta, having just been in Cape Town. And that is the life that I want to live. So I only say that not to flex and to be like, look at me. I say that because you need light at the end of the tunnel, because entrepreneurship is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss, which is my favorite saying. So yeah, if you're listening, your life can look like that. And I want to be really motivational and say that. It's not easy, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's not flexing. I mean, obviously, you know, people listening in could openly say that, yeah, I want a bit more of that. How does that work? Some people on the other side may go, it's not really for me. I know that's what you know, everybody chooses their life, chooses their path. You've got one life, so by all means do it. But obviously this is what you wanted. And this is what you really enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. And you end up bolding a little bit, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. It can be sometimes a bit stressful. So the downside is the risk, but the upside is incredible. And if you're prepared to have the downside and you're prepared to hit your head against the wall without any returns, then the life that you can build is stupidly cool.
Yeah. This is really good. So what has been sort of the hardest moment in this journey so far?
So fun enough, very recently, because when I was working hard, but I didn't have any, like, my life hadn't changed 18 months ago. I didn't have anything to like, you couldn't take anything away from me. I was like, I had no money, but I was working hard, but I had no lifestyle. It wasn't great. Then what happened is obviously like we had an incredibly good year, like changed my life, was able to do everything I wanted, take my mom on holiday. Life was incredible. January this year, I woke up to an email from Instagram saying, we've deleted your account. And I went, oh my God, like that's basically pretty much how we bring in 95% of business, 90% of business. And overnight, they sent an email saying, you can't appeal. Like, we've made this decision. And in a blink of the eye, the most ridiculous life, like being able to do everything that I wanted, had just gone. And that was the worst thing, because I went from like the ultimate 10 out of 10 high to literally being like, what the hell do I do? And it was like, honestly, like, it was the worst thing. But I didn't care. I was actually at a client retreat, and it happened exactly. I was literally staying with like 15 of my clients in the same house. And one of the things that they said, so like, it really impressed me how you didn't care about it. And that's because I built this emotional resilience. And instead of thinking, oh my God, my life is falling apart, I thought, what can I do to fix this? So I got onto my friends in Meta. I found people who went to my university who used to work in the business. I spoke to people in the industry, and I sorted it. And we've done incredibly well in the first 4 months of the year, even when the first 2 months of the year, we had zero way to get customers. The long story short of that, Luke, and what I'm trying to say to the great people listening is, it was the hardest thing, but I chose how I was going to interpret that information. And that information went through my brain. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your business, and your whole life that you've built is going to fall apart. And the thing that came out was, let's work out how to solve this problem. And we just had our record month last month. I couldn't be happy with how my life is. And that's simply because the worst thing happened, but I interpreted it and I solved it, and I got through it. And yeah, that was the hardest thing. That was still the hardest thing, but I'm very proud of how I dealt with it.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of this is linking back to, what you've built as in your character traits, which I think is admirable, but also the fact that, you've just brought an experience and a memory that only happened early on this year. So did you get your account back?
I did.
By the way. Oh, good. Oh,
with a lot of fun, pain, and effort, but like, yeah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And look, I think really interestingly for your listeners, there might be like a really cool story in this as well, which actually taught me the hardest thing that's ever happened to me in my life, aside from the business, which is actually very relatable to a lot of people, is when I was 17, this taught me like really what's important in life. Is when I was 17, I went through a load of really horrible mental health issues, crying all the time, didn't want to leave my bed, awful relationship, toxic relationship, bad breakup. And I just didn't want to be around anymore. And like, I was, going to therapy, taking antidepressants, and it was awful. Like, I didn't see a way out of it. And I genuinely used to like search on Google, like, well, like, can your happiness ever come back to you ever again? I was like, I can't feel this emotion of happiness anymore. I just felt awful and depressed the whole time. And that was the hardest point in my like entire life, because I had no idea if I was ever going to feel better. And the thing that got me out of that, and this is the thing that epitomizes every single story that we've spoken about on this podcast, is I was sat there and I was a victim. And I'm not meaning to say that everyone who has mental health issues is a victim. There's people who are really unfortunate with kind of chemicals in their brain, but I was sitting there and I was blaming everyone else around me. And what I wish I'd done earlier, and what I did, is I looked at myself and thought, how am I acting towards this? Am I choosing to lie in bed? Am I choosing to be in a toxic relationship? Am I choosing to act in a bad way? And I fought my way out of it as soon as I realized that I wasn't going to be that victim, and I wasn't going to be the person that allowed myself to blame myself. I allowed myself to blame the people around me. I was going to blame myself. And that is the singular day, Luke, that I took accountability for my actions. And then fast forward to when my Instagram account got deleted, to when I started realizing that I didn't want to be in my job, to when I realized that I couldn't be in my parents' house. Every single time I've had something, like when I'm in a bad situation, I look back at my 17-year-old self and remind myself, I am in charge of my own destiny. I am in control of what I choose to do with my life. And therefore my life has become so much better because I am in control of what I do. And everything that bad happens to me that's bad now, I know that I can influence. And that ability to control your life is so freeing. And that's one of the reasons that I feel like I'm in this position now, is because I took my life into my own hands, and I learned that from a young age of how important that is.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. That's a really powerful share. So thank you for just actually going back to that, because I think, we all have low moments, but it's like you say, the control, the owner and the victim mentality and all that kind of stuff. You've obviously taken ownership, and just for you now in your sort of life, what do you, like, as a message, want to give to people now if they are sort of looking up to you and going, Sol, I feel lost, I'm down in the dumps, I don't feel like I can go and build this dream that I want to build? What would you say to them?
The difference between where you want to be and where you are now is completely under your control. Completely under your control. There will be factors that you can blame. There will be things that you can say, well, I'll wait and do this after this. And the real message is there's never a perfect time to achieve the life that you want. Everything can be stacked against you over and over and over again. And the only difference between the people who are where you want to be and where you are right now is that action. Going, this is on me. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to ignore all of the factors. I'm going to ignore all the things that don't line up, and I'm going to go and do the thing. And that action is incredible. And if you're sitting here listening to that right now, I want you to think, like, what is the thing you can do right after finishing this great podcast? Is listening, is thinking, what is the thing I can do? What is the immediate action that I can take to take the first step? You don't have to say, I'm going to go set up a business, I'm going to go do this. It's like, what is the literal first thing? Is it posting that video? Is it sending that text message? Is it, what are you going to put in motion? Because once you get into that, I'm not going to think I'm going to do, I'm not going to delay, I'm going to go and take action. It is the most addictive domino feeling possible. And at the end of that last falling domino is the person you want to become. But you have to just forget everything and just push that first domino over first. And then it all comes falling into place. And really, that of everyone who I see who is living the most stupid, crazy, incredible, fulfilling life, they all just got on with it and did it. So please just do the thing and don't wait a second longer.
Yeah, I like that. The last domino just about to fall over, and that's your best self on the other side of that. It's
good. I came up with it on the spot, mate, but it sounds good, hey?
Yeah. Listen, man, use it. It's definitely powerful, and for anyone sort of listening into this, you can't not sort of want to do a few chest pumps and a few hoorahs sort of thing. It's so motivating, man, to sort of hear where you are for you now. Obviously you're around great people. Obviously it sounds like you've got a team as well, in and around your business. What do you learn from them? Like, what is it that you pick up?
Great question. I love being around those people because it constantly, effectively, like osmosis, passes this like thing to my brain of like how I should act. My favorite thing is, like, I would be known by people who know me as like I act quickly. The people who are 10 times ahead of me act 10 times quicker than me and think that I make decisions very slowly. So you're always pushing yourself to act quicker and move quicker. So that's one of the things that I've learned, is that successful people are people who just do things without thinking about them. They just go and do things. So that's the first thing that I've learned from people around me. And the second, the people who are very successful, is they just think so much bigger. They don't waste their time on small things. They don't waste their time thinking about like other people's opinion. They just go and seize the life that they want. There's no magic pill or anything. It's just about these people thinking so big. They don't waste time on opportunities that aren't worth their time. They don't waste their time thinking about people that aren't worth their time. They think, how can I go and achieve the life that I want? And it's actually quite scary when you're around an operator, when you see, people who are doing crazy things. They're like superhuman beings. And that's because they execute. So that's a fascinating thing. And then kind of bonus number 3 is just kind of what I touched on there, is how selfish they are, but about the people, the mission that they have and what they want to achieve. And they will stop at nothing but achieving that mission. And it's a lot to learn for me as someone who has battled on and off with caring about what people think. I'm very, very much like taking inspiration from those people who just go and do things.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, obviously, you preach that, but then the people around you, basically, that's pushing you forward as well, which I think is really good, because obviously as an entrepreneur, you're always learning. You don't know everything. Your life's not perfect. You're still needing that accountability and push yourself, right?
Absolutely. And there's always levels to the game, just like everything, right? Like you can have the best house, but then you're gonna look at someone else's house on the internet and be like, they're better than mine. So you can never hit the top, right? You can always think you're the best at what you do, and there's always going to be someone better. So it's the same as business. It's the same as accountability and work ethic. Is being around people that make you feel like what you're doing is irrelevant, because a lot of people might listen to me and be like, oh, like I really want their life. But I look at people who are 10 times ahead of me and I'm like, I want their life. So it's like, it's being happy where you're at, but also knowing that you can push to that next level all the time, and being around those people and having that accountability is a game changer.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously you've got a great team. You've obviously, I'm sure you've had coaches, mentors, people you look up to. You've probably read multiple books, had lots and lots of conversations. What's something that you've taken away that stands out the most, that you sort of input into your life today?
The greatest work you can do is on yourself, because the only thing that is stopping you getting to where you want to get is you. Like, it's actually quite scary. Like, as small as like, we have a price of the program to work with us. And I was just chatting to someone the other day about like, okay, what, like, is it a good price? Is it a good price or not? And the only difference between us increasing our price was literally just me and my brain. Like, can I grow the metaphorical balls to increase my price, basically? And that's a very small example. And like every single time we've done it, it always is never a problem. And that's a very small example of like how you are the person who is in the way of the things you want to achieve. And the only difference between where I want to be and where I am now is the identity and the person and the way that person acts to be that person. So one of the things that I learned and I take into my life is I went to the top of Table Mountain, the big mountain in Cape Town, and I journaled as the person that I wanted to be. I wrote down like, what are the things that person does? What do they think? What do they do? What are their concerns in life? And that was none of the things that I do right now. But to be that person, one of my favorite phrases, and it makes me laugh even when I say it, is to fall asleep, you first have to pretend to fall asleep. And I'm like, that's so true. So to actually fall asleep, you have to like close your eyes and be like, oh, like I'm asleep, sort of thing. And I think that's like the same way as being successful is you first have to pretend to be successful and do the things that cause you to be that successful person. And then all of a sudden that success happens. So I've learned that the only thing blocking me from being that person is identifying as that person, doing that thing. And then I end up becoming that person. And that's happened time and time again. I remember, Luke, a very funny story, and why I want your listeners to be as delusional as possible is when I was in a pub in London with my friend before I had that offer, just a few days before I was on the floor, not knowing what to do with my life. I said to my friend, yeah, so when I make 100K a month, and he was like, Sol, you've not even got an offer. You've got no business. You're living at your parents' house. What do you mean when you make 100K a month? And that's because in my mind, I'd become that person already. I was that person. I said it like without even thinking about it. And I want as many people listening as possible to think like, what does life look like if you are that person that you want to become? If you act like that person, then it's like magic. You end up becoming it. And that first month where we hit 100K, I was like, of course, I'm a 100K a month business owner. And now I'm so far ahead of thinking about the person that I want to become in the future. I hope listeners will listen back to this, or maybe we do another episode in 6 months' time where I'm where I want to be, and then I'll be further ahead again. And it's such a hack in life to do that identity shifting.
Yeah, I think that's so good, Sol. I mean, obviously, you've definitely publicly put it out there. I can see there's not much fear in you to be able to speak what you feel and to put do the reps and do the hard work, and you've got big ambitions. And I think, for anyone, again, listening here, it's like you said, thinking big, speaking big, and, you can go towards that. It's not impossible that maybe what you think or what other people think.
Absolutely.
Well, look, so listen, my friend, this has been so good. We are unfortunately getting towards the end of this recording, but I do have a question for you, and it's one. I've had many questions for you, but this is one that I do ask every guest. I'd love to hear your perspective on this one. What does mastering your life mean to you, Sol?
It means knowing that I have pushed myself in every fiber of my body to be the best person that I can. because at the end of the day, we don't owe like our lives to anyone, even our partners, like anyone in our life, our family. Like the only person that we speak to at the end of life is like ourselves, right? And like, that's my view on things. And like you hold yourself accountable for the life that you want to live. And for me, mastering my life means that I have completely and utterly fulfilled my potential. That means having a great business, i.e. wrapped in a purpose. It means having an incredible family. I'm a really big believer in like family and having an incredible relationship and bring up incredible people. And it also means maximizing the impact that I have in the world. And that to me is mastering my life, is making sure that every single day I live as my best possible self. It's addictive, it's obsessive, and it's sometimes very, very frustrating because you want to be a lot further ahead than you are. But I want to know that at the end of my life, I've made every single like second in my life count, and that I didn't waste it. I didn't sit there wondering what people thought of me, didn't sit there caring about what could have gone wrong or what mistakes I made in the past. I've made the best life of that. And that's the feeling I want to have. I imagine what life looks like on my deathbed, and I relate that back to this right now and spending some great time speaking to your listeners. And I feel like that's a great way of mastering my life, is to make every second count.
I love that. Making every second count, full potential, delivering impact, giving back. Brilliant, Soul. Listen, where can people find you? Where's the best place if they are wanting to start a conversation or at least see what you get up to?
Yeah, check me out on my Instagram, soul.hyde. We have tons of free value about scaling your business, making content, but it's also a fun place to be. And yeah, I'd love to have you there. And we're also hosting a big event in London at the end of August, which is going to be like a lifestyle business mastermind, which I'd love as many people have. We're going to have 500 people there. It's going to be super fun. And I'd love all your listeners to come check us out there. And obviously, Luke, I'd love to catch up with you there as well.
Epic. Well, listen, so I'll make sure the links are in there. Even the event, if you've got a link to it, we can bang it in there, because your episode, by the way, is going to be out this weekend. So it's a quick turnaround, my friends. So it's always good.
Fast moving operation. That's what I love to see.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, just want to say thank you for coming on this episode with us from Malta, eh? Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. But no, thanks for your time, Luke, and thanks for putting the great message out there as well. It's good to be on the same mission.